Hi, folks. Welcome to the Seven Figure Network podcast. Today, I have a very special guest because Kevin Crandall is the Vice President of Sales for Shaklee. We all know Shaklee. It's been around for years, started by a doctor, incredible products, has built this major company, owned by a billionaire, the whole nine yards. I am so excited to have Kevin here because we really get to kind of open the kimono and see that other side of the industry. You guys know that more often than not, I'm either interviewing master distributors or top trainers, but when I can get somebody in here like Kevin, we can really understand where the industry is today, where it's going, and what the ideas are of these massive companies. Shaklee is one of the biggest companies out there, so they've got a really different way of doing things that a lot of other folks would do. So I can't wait to ask Kevin a couple of these questions, truly from that Vice President of Sales side. Kevin, I never like telling anybody's story because I don't do it nearly as well as they do themselves. So could you do me a favor and just, tell me a little bit about yourself? Oh, first and foremost, thank you for being here. I appreciate you being on the show today. It's great to have you.
Well, it's great to be here, Mel, and thank you for that introduction. The thing that I love to really talk about is just how I fell into the industry in a way. Growing up in Utah, we're surrounded with direct sales companies. There are a lot of them that come from this part of the world. But, I grew up in a very small little town that, was the backyard, or maybe front yard, depending on how you look at it, of Nu Skin Enterprises, right? So Nu Skin was kind of my backyard. A lot of my friends and family had worked for the company. So as a starving student or a full-time student and just recently married, I was looking for a part-time job. And so luckily at the time, Nu Skin brought in Big Planet as kind of their technology arm or their technology branch. And so they needed someone to help support billing aspects, take all the angry calls when bills aren't done, as they planned or as they hoped. But, I just started to learn from the basics of dealing with customers. So I started all in customer service, and I actually fell in love with the customer service side of things. And from there, I had the opportunity to move up into, customer service manager, customer service management, and just really started to learn the industry from kind of those daily calls, those daily routines, learning what distributors go through on a daily basis, and just falling in love with just what it means for an ordinary person to go into this industry and do something extraordinary, right? Go and do something at a level where they can take control. They can create a lifestyle and they can earn a living by just helping people make a change in their life, make a change in their health, whatever it might be. And so, that's kind of how I got started. And so from there, I went from call center manager, then I jumped into the sales side of things. And for me, As a call center manager, I got to see the top leadership and what they did every day and what drove them and motivated them and how they thought, the critical thinking they go through, but also how they have that servant heart and servant leadership. You look at some of the top earners and you're like, man, they're just ruthless. They're sharks. They're ones that just go out there every day and pound the pavement. But you kind of find out that they're just very good at serving people. And they have a heart and a passion for helping people, not just the people they can influence, in their family and their friends in their small communities, but on scale. And I think that to me is what really motivated me to say, how do I get to be around more of these people, right? I want to learn from them. I want to understand what makes them tick and what makes them kind of create that level of success that they've achieved. So I was able to transition onto the sales side just because I wanted to work with that top leadership group. And so I identified 10, and I'm like, as a call center manager, I'm dealing with those hot level type issues, right? And I'm trying to refill their enthusiasm tank and make people feel good about, their situation, and they're like, made the right choice. But I'm like, there's a different thing that's happening that I want to get to know. So I identified 10 leaders and I said, I'm going to learn from them. These are ones that I see on stage. These are the ones that I see that there's a congregation of people around them. They're doing something right. They're doing something different. So I just started to learn from them and talk to them. And I really started to love that aspect of it. And I was actually tempted to say, maybe I joined them on that side of things. But as a result, I'm like, how do I support them better? So I moved on to the sales side because I wanted to work in the account management, sales management. And so from there, I worked my way up to becoming a sales director with Nu Skin over the US and Canadian markets. And just really got to travel with these top leadership and get to know them and respect them. And so that's kind of really where I started to understand just how this industry works. And I just fell in love with the industries. I've just learned so much from what it means to be a successful leader, but also what it means to really help people with that servant leadership mindset, just really doing those fundamentals over and over and over. so that, you have posture. And I always talk about this, the difference between those top level leaders and those who aren't there yet. They just failed more times. They were told no more times. They just didn't quit. They just had that posture. It didn't matter what other people thought or felt or really even understood about what they did. It was up to them, right? It's like they knew who they were. They knew what they represented. They knew what they wanted. And that to them is that purpose defining moment where they were able to then go through those different levels of success. And so from there, I was able to move to a startup company because I knew one plan. I knew one way of thinking. I wanted to learn how to understand more of the realm of the direct selling model. And so I went to a small little startup. I went from Utah to Tennessee, a really small startup company, just to learn how to take a brand new concept and come up with a company. And it lasted about 1.5 years, but we had a lot of fun. We had some early successes. We made a lot of mistakes. We learned a lot as a team. And during the transition, that company got sold out to another company. And so while that transition was happening, some friends from Nu Skin actually were a part of the Shackley team. And so they said, hey, we're looking to develop a team in the Southeast region of the United States, and you're located right there. We'd like to see if it's a good fit. And then it just worked out perfectly. And so I was with Nu Skin for 12. I started for a little bit of time. And then I was over the eastern part of the US and now the vice president of sales with Shackley. So I've had a chance to move up and just learn a lot about what it means to really understand. Because 65 years, there's a lot of decades in there. There's a lot of learning. There's a lot of successes and some failures that we've kind of gone through and really understood how to kind of put us in a place to be perfectly situated for a time like this. So a little bit of the background. I mean, some of the fun things going up in Utah, I have 3 daughters. Sometimes I mistake and say I have 1 wife and 3 daughters, or 3 wives and 1 daughter. You just never know, kind of coming from Utah. But my kids have been a part of the industry. I've been in it for 25 years, and my oldest is 22. So all they've ever really known is direct selling and just what it means to provide us this wonderful lifestyle. So.
As you know, I'm also outnumbered by the girls in my house, so I totally get it. One thing, a recurring theme with everything you said was your ambition to learn more. I cannot tell you how much I respect the fact that you would keep throwing yourself into those situations. And one aspect that really jumped out at me is that you went from customer service to sales. And that's an aspect of this industry that a lot of folks don't feel both sides of, because obviously, network marketing companies are amazing at customer service. That's one of the reasons why we all love network marketing, because we don't have to deal with that. So, how do you think that your time in customer service impacted the way that you've run your sales divisions up until now?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And you're right. There's not a lot of those transitions from customer service to sales, because one's about being, reactive, and the other's about being very proactive. But I think at the end of the day, what I've really learned is that we're all about building relationships. And with it being a relationship business, even if you're one of the top sellers, you still have to provide amazing customer service and understand the needs of the customer. So I've talked to a lot of the people inside of the industry and outside of the industry. And I feel like in this direct selling industry, we know consumers the best, right? Because we try to build the relationship to understand what's a motivation for them, what is something that's going to help them not only achieve that immediate return on the feeling good or, that health need that they have, but also help them to stay consistent, through that, all the different campaigns and all the different things that we do to help them stay loyal. Yeah. And I think that's one of the cool things that I found in working with the Nu Skins and working with the Shackleys is they do a really good job of making sure that the customer service side and the sales side are really connected, really understanding kind of what are some of the obstacles and the challenges that people face day to day. As they're, at the end of the day, they're the ones that are going out there having the conversations. They're putting their being vulnerable, I should say, out on social, right? They're putting themselves out there. And so they want to make sure that that person coming in and that person that's trusting them, also feels safe, right? Because they put this safety zone around them. They want to make sure that people feel safe and are taken care of. So as a sales team, as you're out there promoting and driving sales and driving activity, the follow-up, the make sure that we're always checking in to just identify if the person's neutral, maybe if their energy's down, where their energy is, and how do you consistently do the things that you need to do to help to keep them motivated and feeling like there's a trust that the company has your best interest in mind, that the leadership has the best interest of their customers in mind. And so we're always doing things to I think we call them there's kind of the customer loyalty or the customer win backs, those things that you can do to just remind yourself that they're the most important aspect of this entire engine, your customers, right? They're the ones that are going to continue to buy, month after month to make sure that they have their needs met. And you want to make sure from a sales side that you bring that level of customer service in, and you're always doing those things to just remind yourself of the value that they are, and consistently doing things to make them feel like they made that right choice, to help them, in that regard. It's not just a one-time transaction, right? We don't have, gratefully, we don't have that, one and done mindset. We're always about, can we get them that next order, the next order, the next order? And yes, it helps, create more sales. But at the end of the day, it's doing those touch points to make them feel like they are a part of the family. And they're doing their, what they need to do to help, improve their health and their wellness as well. So
yeah, no,
there's a real good correlation.
Yeah, you came up with a really great point. Is that you guys work in a consumable product industry. You've got things that people take for the month and they need to redo. So let's put on our sales hat for a minute. Given what we've dealt with for the last 2 years, and again, I'm not going to get too negative here. We may ask one or two lockdown questions, then we're getting it right off the table because nobody wants to talk about lockdown anymore. So, what were you guys doing? And again, I mean, you're the point of the spear, man. You're the vice president of sales. What were you guys doing over these last couple of years to keep sales up? Because as you know, some companies did this, some companies did this, a lot of companies did that. A lot of companies that weren't prepared for this that suffered. So how did you guys do it over the last couple of years?
Yeah, it's a really good point. I think, we're lucky in the fact that, our CEO, Roger Barnett, is very visionary he's looking 10 years down the road. Mm-hmm. Like some people look 5 years, he was looking 10 years. So he's been on a mission to really understand supply chain, to really solve a lot of the challenges that are naturally going on without what we've been dealing with lately. So we were already going through that process of looking at suppliers, looking at supply chain, looking at how we could simplify and reduce costs, but also make sure that we are able to provide for the needs of our consumers on a daily or on a monthly basis. Mm-hmm. And so we were already putting some of those practice into place. And also, unfortunately, we being a part of California, which was one of the first places where our headquarters was located, went into the first lockdown. So we were able to start putting some of those things into motion immediately. I know a lot of people and companies were waiting, 3 or 4 or 5 months to see, how long it was going to be. We went right into kind of that next step or that next phase and what we could do to kind of continue in that process that we already put in place with supply chain and supply management. And so from there, it was, that was the good thing that we did, really kind of making some of those pivots quickly, and we're already in the thought process. So we just instituted them quickly. Like, for example, we had to move all of our customer service internally into home remote areas. We'd already started doing some of that. We already started putting some of that into play because we knew there were times where, if something were to happen, some type of disaster, and we needed disaster recovery, we needed people to be set up at home. So that transition happened quickly. So we were able to keep, moving from that office space into homes really, really quickly. Secondarily, I think, we were set up with really good products for the time. Mm-hmm. And I think that's kind of the fortunate part of it, meaning that we had really good natural cleaning products, natural immunity-based products. So people were looking to kind of go for the green aspect of natural and organic, right? And so we've been built upon that foundation. So we have really good immunity-based products, really good cleaning products, things that people were looking for when everything was going off the shelf because people were looking to disinfect or make sure they had all their home needs taken care of. We have a lot of those products. Plus, we have really good immunity products, and that's we started to see people buying up like in mass because they wanted to really make sure that they were taking care of their needs and their family's needs and they were safe, right? But I think what was really important was the last year. So I think 2020, the companies who had success, who had really good products, who had really good offers and opportunities, they were doing well in 2020. But it's how do you keep that going into 2021? And I think that's really where I put a lot of the, give the accolades to our internal team, our distribution center, the things that they put in place to ensure that, we weren't having shutdowns. Yes, we were impacted by the C word, right? COVID did impact our distribution center, but they had already set up methods. I'm trying to think of the word, but they already set up kind of strategies that to make sure that we wouldn't have to shut down completely. So they were going through a process of just making sure that, we always had staff on hand, regardless of the situation, to make sure the products went out and that people were taken care of and their needs were met. So, I mean, yes, FedEx and yes, UPS and yes, some of those was also a slow down mentality. But I think we just went through the process of making sure we were in the right place with all the different needs internally, with the call center support team, the distribution center management, and how they managed their teams quickly, made some of those transitions. But again, it was just, those are two aspects of it. And then from a sales side of it, we just had a lot more conversations. And I think that's really what helped. We kept the communication channel open. Internally, every Friday we meet as a home team, like everybody in the US and Canadian sales and marketing and IT and finance and HR, everyone meets together. And we get a state of the union address on a weekly basis from our CEO, from other members of the team. So we're always doing those check-ins to keep people motivated, because I think you lose that human touch. You lose the opportunity to connect with people. So we wanted to make sure that was consistent. And we do a lot of things to shout people out. And I think it's just that simple. When you're isolated, you're in this 10 by 10 office that I'm in almost all day, every day. And it's like, you can kind of feel like you're very individual and you get a little bit lost. And so we would do a lot of shout outs, that every little thing that we recognized that people were doing, we wanted to make sure that they were recognized. We use Slack, and Slack has been a great tool to keep that open communication channel going, making sure all the different priorities are met, the assignments, all the different tasks are worked on collectively. And so that's where we kind of keep that information updated. We have a shout out section. We have a working from home section where people would throw funny things in there just to lighten the mood, because, sometimes you need an outlet, right? So I think it was keeping the enthusiasm with the employees going. We haven't been back. I know a lot of companies have. We went into isolation and shut down in March of 2020, and here we are almost March of 2022, and we haven't been in the home office yet. We're still out remote, and no one's been back. Maybe for a moment or two for some people to sign paycheck or commission checks and paychecks, but that's it, right? Our finance team has to go in, but nobody else. And I think it was just doing those touch points and recognizing people, and then, reading the shout outs and just acknowledging people for their hard work and effort. And it made people feel like they were, part of something, and that they were noticed. They were recognized for their efforts. It just created this warm, fun, friendly environment that sometimes gets even lost in the office, right? Because there's a lot of the travel time that, people disconnect. And I think this was a way that we always plug in and just make sure that, we can recognize and see people being recognized. And we have those weekly check-ins where we're just, getting a chance to communicate and talk with one another. But so, if you break it down, it's like we were already doing some of the things necessary, during this time to be ready. For some type, we didn't know what was going to happen. We just kind of looked into
amorphous disaster.
Yeah, we were just already going through disaster planning. Number two is that, we started to make sure that we could transition, if it was needed, through the disaster recovery plans to make sure that we could continue to service the field first and foremost. Making sure that the health and safety of the internal team was taken care of, and making sure that we had a place and outlet for people to stay connected and part of the community. I think those were maybe the things that really helped us during that time. And then we do a lot of check-ins with the field on a daily basis. We have different Facebook groups and different channels there where we do a Mission Possible Monday where we get people to plug in and come in and hear and learn from one another. So it just keeps everyone feeling like they're a part of something, even though they don't get that chance to be out amongst family and friends. I think things have obviously changed in the last little while. Thank goodness it's starting to open up and things are a little bit different. But I think that's what a lot of it, and having good products for a time, and also doing things from the financial side of things. I think a lot of people have that scarcity mentality, like, what's going to happen to my income? And then there's those who are like, well, I don't want to go back to work. I don't want to go back into a 9-to-5 world. I want to do something where I can stay with my children or stay with my family or do things with independence and a little bit of flexibility. So I think those were some of the things that really helped drive us. And then putting into play programs and promotions. We're very promotion heavy right now, but it's good because it's really identifying a lot of those people who are looking for second, third, what streams of income, and we have that opportunity.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because you and I have actually spoken about this before, that the Great Resignation is completely changing the face of network marketing now. We are such a, and again, us being two men on the camera, it's kind of funny to say this, but it's such a female biased industry that what we're seeing is a lot more, or at least what we're trying to attract is a lot more of these men who have either been in sales positions, been in management positions, have had retail experience before, that could really step into our model and do incredibly well. It was just never presented to them. Or they always thought, I already own a business. I've already got a 6-figure income. I don't want to think about anything else. Those are the folks we can talk to directly now, because this is that perfect time for opportunities. I love the fact that you raised that point. And I wanted to highlight one other point that you said, was that you guys right from day one thought about supply issues. And the reason being is you knew your product would sell. You know how many people I talk to in this industry. I'm shocked how many companies that had the perfect product for the opportunity. I mean, the world got sick. This is your industry. Let's go. It's time to, start printing some money here. And they didn't figure out the supply chain issues early enough. So I think that's one of the amazing things about having a billionaire like, Richard or Roger Barnett leading the charge and having a team like you on there, is you guys really thought about the fact, man, this is going to sell fast. We have these products that are going to fly out the front door. And the last we want is our distributors with their, torches and pitchforks in 6 months saying, where's our green? Where's our this? Where's our that? Where's the other thing? So yeah, really, that's great, man. So let's talk about internationally. How has that been? Because, obviously, we both live in America. We both, work in the domestic market quite a bit. Internationally, things have been completely different. Did you guys have to do a lot of shifting for the international market, or has it kind of walked lockstep with the domestic growth, or?
Yeah, we've been very much aligned from an international standpoint. We were going through some really amazing growth in Taiwan, Malaysia, and some of those markets that didn't really see the impact of the pandemic like some of the other countries did. So we were kind of in those places. Obviously, China is one of our bigger markets, and so that went through some really difficult challenges. So from the China market standpoint, obviously, just the way their government reacted to the pandemic, caused us to slow down considerably. A lot of our U.S. distributors who have really good and really strong teams over there couldn't visit them as much. So they had to come up with creative ways and creative solutions to keep them engaged and keep them focused through a lot of different Zoom calls and different Facebook groups, and just really staying plugged in and connected. So that market struggled, but the Taiwans, Malaysias, Japan, and those markets, they flourished as well. And I think it goes back to just having the right product for the time, having enough supply, chain and supply products on hand to be able to support the needs of the markets. And so, we feel very fortunate that, both international and domestic was set up in a place where we could definitely support the needs of our consumers. We did make some decisions where we brought in a lot of inventory because things did sell really quickly. And then, we've had a little bit of excess, and I think, benefited from the fact we can run these promotions to give people some extra product. Because of that, there's always that balance. You don't want to over promote, because then it gets to a point where it's not as impactful. But it goes back to the thinking that we have great product. We know people are sick, to your point. They have a need for what we have. So we just went immediately into, it's going to be an immunity-based time. And a lot of our products, even our shakes, our nutritionals, they're all kind of aligned with, a really good immunity base to them. And so, I just feel fortunate that we were going in that direction already with some new products that were immunity-based, that when this time hit, it was just that it made sense to put some more effort and energy behind getting those products out as quickly as possible to help, make sure the needs of the consumers were met. But yeah, they've been very the seamless, I think, growth from both sides. And yeah, we've run into a little bit more of a challenge with some ingredients in some of the international markets than we do domestically, because we're spread out really good. We have a really good infrastructure in place where we work with a lot of third parties that are local and really can control the needs for goods compared to what we have to do in some of our international markets. But but yeah, I think we were set up for a good time. Like we were set up for to really take advantage of the time. And that's kind of the fortunate side of the business. So.
One thing that transcends all industries, it's way better to have a little bit of a sale on your bestseller than to have your bestseller unavailable for 6 months.
Exactly.
I don't care if you're selling pills, tires, cars, I don't care what you're selling. It's way better to give a little bit of a break and get people excited than to say, sorry, we're out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, for sure. And I think, we were okay with the decision to have a little bit of surplus on hand with some of our top sellers because, going through it, it was like, we'll just do it for mostly a year, right? I think people going through the pandemic thought, well, 2021 will be completely different. And it hasn't. Here we are in 2022, and those still bestsellers are still our bestsellers today. So it was good that we had them on hand and available. And then we could run because, going into cold and flu season, people knew, hey, maybe the pandemic will slow down, but we'll have a need for these products because we're going through a time where people typically get sick. But we were just, perfectly positioned for that. So I feel like very fortunate. I know a lot of companies, to your point earlier, didn't really have the opportunity to make some of these transitions. But I do feel like most companies pivoted really well. There's a lot of technology out there today to really create a connection and build those relationships without having the face-to-face, right? I feel like that, when I joined Shackley, it's kind of interesting. In 2011, we didn't do anything on social media. We were very slow to the social media game. And, I think if you look at the last 11 years, social media has made a huge impact. And so a lot of companies were already transitioning to digital, creating that digital footprint, us specifically. And it was a time for us all to learn together. And so I think there was a lot of fun in going through that process because when you have, leadership that's been around 30, 40, 50 years, they're probably not as tech savvy as someone who's just joined in today that's in their 20s and 30s, right? And so together we just were able to learn how to use Zoom to be more effective, like we are here, how to do these podcasts, how to do, Zoom meetings, how to just check in, how to create energy and excitement. We've had our 2 conferences that were virtual and, we have, 3 to 4 times more people tuning in. So we've reached a broader audience because more people can. When you have an older group, it's harder for them to travel. Yep. But they're able to through, training and giving them the right tools and tips to be able to maximize the learning experience through, online. They've been able to flourish and maximize. It's fun to see them transition their business to be more digital and more virtual, right? It's really it's been fun as a company to see that transition. And then you're bringing new people in who just, they have a really good understanding. They think socially, they understand how to really drive activity socially. And so they've come in and they bonded really well with some of our older leadership. And it's just creating this magical opportunity right now for us to really have stability through older leadership who really understands kind of that kneecap to kneecap or belly to belly aspect of the business, right? And then those who are screen to screen, the home to homes, and putting those 2 together has really helped transform Shackley. And I feel like we're very lucky to be in a place with great products and a field that's really adapted to the time. So it's been a fun time. It's sad to say that. For so many, I feel guilty, but it's been a really good opportunity for us to learn and grow together as a company and as a field. So.
You know what? That's the positivity that you got to keep going through the whole company. That positivity from the top is what's going to carry you through. You mentioned something I hadn't even thought about. It's funny. It struck me like a bolt of lightning that you've gone through 11 years of conventions, leaderships, this, that, the other thing. Did you see, because, you show up to conventions for the excitement. Everybody knows that the company's going to have explosive growth the month after a convention. Everybody's just on fire. Did you see a different level of growth after convention? Because you said that more people arrived, but because they weren't actually physically in the room together. How did that? I'm really interested. How did that actually play out? Like that month after, where I'm going to see 80% growth because everybody's going crazy. Did that change at all?
It actually was better for us. I would say one of our struggles, and I know what you're talking about. I've been a part of that. Where there's 10, 15, 20,000 people, coming in.
Rah.
So everybody goes to run to those, pick lines or whatever, order lines to make those orders, as quickly as possible so they can be the first. At Shackley, we've been a smaller attended kind of in-person event because we have an older field. And so we're a little bit smaller. And so a lot of it has still been done online. And, we make it available to in-person first, but we don't have a big, larger group. And so when we're doubling those numbers to not just our conferences, but all our, we do every quarter, we do like a virtual kickoff or a virtual focused event. And we're seeing as many people at those as we do our global conferences. And so we've seen a consistent uptick because we can do things virtually that we can't do. Like, so for example, if you step back at a big event, it's like, hey, here's the new products. And then we go through this science, background of why these products are products we feel people are going to really, use and to be excited about. And then we go through training on how to use them. And then we open the doors and say, go buy them, right? And so then there's this rush, and it's usually those people on site, and then it's like maybe available. Some companies do it right away, some maybe 30, 60 days later that everybody else gets to.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, you want people in the room because you want the better sales. So you try to get people to the event to create that energy. But what we can do is we're like, there's a link in the chat. Click that link and go buy. And so we can watch that buying behavior happen more instantaneous, and more people are just getting used to, online shopping. It's just kind of the wave of the future. And so they're just online watching, and there's a lot more interaction, which I think has been the cool part, because when you're standing on stage, you're broadcasting to 10,000 people, right? And it's great, and people are all reacting to you. But when you're doing that in a virtual setting, you can have 3 or 4 or 5 people engaging while the person's speaking.
Great point.
So there's a lot more engagement happening in the chat while they're speaking happening. So there's I think it just creates an energy that's different. Yeah. I don't want to say that we should always go virtual, because I'm the guy on stage who loves to dress up in costumes and have fun and dance and do all that stuff, because I love the energy and I love the excitement of in-person events. But I do think we're going to probably see companies do like hybrids, where there's going to be in-person, maybe smaller in-person, a lot more virtual. There's going to be kind of the give and take, was we still want in-person and energy, but we also want to support those who may not be able to attend events and not feel guilty because they missed. They could still get some of that and still be able to participate in those great offers that are always available to conference attendees. So,
right.
But yeah, we've actually seen an uptick, and I think it's just because more people can plug in, and they're not getting a second, third hand. So like, let's say we have 5,000 people at one of our events. Well, that 5,000 has to then take it back to the other 5,000 who couldn't go. Right. And so it's just a little bit of a slower reaction in selling. And here it's like instantaneously click the button and go, right? Yeah. And that's what's fun about it. And then we can always do giveaways and things. It's like, hey, so-and-so placed the 100th order. Let's give them a free this, that. So it just creates a different energy. So yeah, it's a great question, but we've definitely seen an uptick in sales from that result.
And you're absolutely right. When people come home from convention, it's that telephone game. It's like, I tell you, but by the time it's 4 people down, it's a different kind of ingredient. It's a different delivery system. You're supposed to take 4 a day. No, you're supposed to take 8 a day. So it's, I can see how that would open it up. And especially, and not to be ageist because I'm old, but for the older folks, I can see how that would be really a nice way to do it. I'm sure the challenge was, learning how to do Zoom, I'm sure was a challenge, but once they got on there, they felt the camaraderie that they may have never felt before. Because, you guys have been around for so long, you're so tight knit, losing that camaraderie has got to be one of the hardest things for the company. I mean, you having this, draw together thing is so important for you guys. So let's roll into a family question now.
Yeah.
You've got your kids, you got your wife, you travel like crazy. How do you balance on your side of the equation? How are you balancing all this work, all this, everything else, trying to grow the company, dealing with COVID and everything else? How are you balancing that with still spending time with your wife and girls?
Man, I don't think I'm going to answer this one no, it is a balance. I think one of the things we learned in the first year, I even hate to say it that way because now we're in the second year, right?
Knocking on the door of the third.
Yeah, knocking on the third. The first year, I think what we all had to learn is to turn off work. Yeah. It's easy, like when you drive, So I was never good at this, so that's why I'm probably answering that. I would drive from home to the office and I'd call someone. I'd call a distributor because I don't like to drive in quiet. I don't like to listen to the radio a lot. So I'm calling, hey, my friend Mel, and saying, hey, how's it going today? What can I do? So that was my 15 to 20 minute drive time talking to a distributor, I did a lot of my one-on-ones with my team members while I would drive to and from work. I'm like, hey, just checking in. I don't know what's going on. So I was kind of bad at that. But I do think what you did find, for most cases, is that people would have that downtime, right? They'd be able to disconnect, leaving home to work and then, leaving from work to get home. But, when you're working remotely, you just, it's 10 feet away from the kitchen, but I don't ever really make time to go there. And so it's easy for me to go back and forth. I stay here a lot. I can jump there anytime, come back there, I'm working. So what I found is my, 8-9 hours turned into 12, 13 hours. Like I was always connected. And so I learned that, what I was doing is I was creating more of a disturbance in the family work life, because, it was like, you could never, like my kids would come home, from school and have their downtime. And then I would drive home and then, we'd have family time. That was simple. But here, they never knew when family time stopped, or family time started and work time ended. It was just, it was all same time. And so what we found is that, and I think this is something that our company did really well. They said, you're going to take an hour every day, right? And you spend that hour like rejuvenating and refocusing on you, taking time for yourself, whether you go for a walk with your spouse or, and you can take it anytime. Maybe it's like when the kids got home, that hour and a half, just to take time to just reconnect with them. And so even during the workday was making sure you spent time with your spouse. Because my wife hears every conversation that I have.
Right.
Like she critiques me. She's like, why did you say it that way? Like she's such a part of my conversations in my work life that it's important to take those moments that you have, opportunities to make sure you're not blending the two to the point where you lose, your own self in kind of that work life.
Yeah.
And so, it has been a challenge for me, specifically just trying to make sure I make those moments or take those moments for lunches. And I take those moments to kind of break away from the work, because I can do it at any time now.
Yeah.
That's what's great. Like before, I'd have to drive 30 minutes into the office and figure out how to get into it and do that. I mean, yes, I could take some of it home, but I have everything I need right here. Yeah. I've been doing it for 2 years now. And so it's really just finding those moments throughout the day to not only, focus in on, the family, but also the self, and I think sometimes we forget about ourselves, and you can get worn down and you can get overwhelmed with things if you don't take that time for yourself. So really it's just, I guess simply said, it's just finding those moments throughout the day, making sure that you get out, you walk, but also making sure that you set limits to say, I am done at this time, right? And I'm going to spend this time with the family, and just making it a priority. And then, it starts to become routine, and then you start to see that, there's the work-life balance can kind of be restored. But it's a struggle because, when you're remote for so long, that you sometimes, even as much as you try to make sure you have those moments, it's just hard to get lost in the work. It's just, as soon as you wake up, as soon as you go to bed, it seems like you're always working. But I think we're really good at doing that. And what I try to do is the boss, so to speak, is I want to make sure there's flexibility. And I'm very willing to give people time to go do stuff. Like, I have an employee says, hey, I want to take my son skiing today. Go, right? We can move some of your responsibilities to someone else. I can take on some of those responsibilities. It's important for you to go do that. So I want to make sure that's always, family first. If you need that time, take that time. If you need a mental break on a mental day, take it. Like we are a team, and we'll step in and help you when you need to do that. Because the last thing I want is a burned out employee talking to the field, right? What is that going to do? They're going to bring that negative energy, that burned out feeling to that conversation. And we don't want that. We want people talking to people because they love what they do and they're excited to have that conversation. They're excited to help them grow and get to that next level of support. So it's important. So I'm always making sure that happens. I'm probably the worst at doing it for myself, but I'm really good at making sure my team is definitely doing that. And I think that's good too. We have a really good team. It's kind of funny because the majority of our team, because of being remote, I moved from California to Utah, back home. I've had several of my sales team that are in Utah. So we're able to get to do things still because we're in a state that has kind of had more of a relaxed, mandates. And so we're able to find time to at least do a few things in person as well, to still stay connected, and then allow people just to make sure they find times just to do stuff with their family. If you need a day, you need a couple of days, do it. We're here to pick up the pieces. So
I think a lot of guys like you ended up getting sucked into the bad part of entrepreneurship when you went home. And that is, you can either have a 9-to-5 job as an employee, or as an entrepreneur, you can have a 7 to 11 job. And it seems like we all fall into that same thing. So, oh man, it's funny. So, hey, I wanted to ask you about philanthropy, because I know that you guys are a really philanthropic company. How do you think that's impacted your company over the last few years? Because I know that, because some companies have really taken a loss, they haven't been able to be as philanthropic as usual. Other companies have seen such gains that they've been able to sort of, move even more into that end. What aspect of philanthropy has had an impact on you guys over let's call it 5 years. Let's not even call it the last 3 years. Let's call it the last 5 years. What has that done to move the needle for you guys?
Yeah, it's a really good point. We've been very disaster related as a company. We have a Shackley Cares program that's all based on disasters, mostly within the United States, specifically with, going through the hurricanes and all the different devastations we've got around here. So we've got really good, going back to the cleaning products, going back to some nutritional meal replacement, products and shakes and bars and so forth. Yeah. So when there is a devastation, there's a need, we've always kind of stepped up and really helped out with that capacity. But over the last few years, we wanted to expand that because we know that there's just a greater need to be more involved in communities around the world. U.S. starting, we still want to make sure it's a big drive for us here, domestically, but we also want to expand to, other reaches and other places. So, that's one of the things that we're really starting to realize, what can we do? We have some campaigns where every spend, is a dollar back, right? So forth to kind of help, what is it? Angels, I forget the name of it, but it's a way to get back to malnourished children, right? In order to help them. And so a lot of the proceeds will go to these different programs. Maybe they're not utilizing our product specifically, but every time you purchase a product or a specific product, proceeds go to that because it's a way for us to help on a larger scale. One of the things that I've absolutely loved and what got me excited about being a part of Shackley is when I was talking to Roger Barnett, our chief executive officer, just about the opportunity. And he said he wanted to be one of the first companies to win the Nobel Peace Prize. And he wanted to eradicate world hunger, which is a big and lofty goal. But it was something that told me, 16, 17 years ago, when he bought this company, that he saw Shackley as a way to do that. Because it's a really, company that's strong in, natural products, organic products, products that can help not only people, but the planet. And to really look for ways to do that. Some of the things that we've done, different touch points, in addition to our Shackley Cares for the, natural disasters and some of the things we're doing for malnourished children, but also, planting trees. So we did, especially, we're a big Earth Day company. A lot of our products being natural, our cleaning products are natural products. We do a lot of things around celebrating Earth Day and making sure people get out and just really take care of nature and take care of Mother Earth, so to speak. And so we do these giving planting trees where he was able to, Roger Barnett at the time was able to partner with Wangari Maathai, who was a Nobel Peace Prize winner for her work in Kenya, where we were able to plant 1 million trees, right? It was a 1 million trees project. And so we, together with, Wangari, were able to do that for Kenya because, can think about that, what that can do for the planet. And we've now extended that, unfortunately, Wangari passed away a few years ago, but we've extended that mission to plant 1 trillion. And we want to continue that mission. So every year we're always consistently doing 3 things to, plant trees around the world to give back to nature and what nature's given us. So those are just some of the things that we've really shifted in, how we can not only do it on a domestic level, but on a global scale. And there's a lot more opportunity. We want, with the philanthropic efforts, we want it to be like 100% of who we are, right? And what we represent. So every event, everything that we do, we want to make sure it's a big part of our giving back and taking care of the community that's supporting us through our conferences, through our different destinational, trips. When we were traveling internationally, we were always doing things to plant trees. We're doing something to give back to communities that, have needs. So I think that's just a really good mission to try to be that first company to do that. It's a big lofty goal, but everything that we do has that focus and feature so that we make sure that we are giving back.
Yep. Keeping Dr. Shackley proud. A lot to be said for that.
Exactly.
A lot to be said for that. I don't say that jokingly. That means a lot. When you got a founder like Dr. Shackley, you got to keep that thing going. Hey, let's get to the nitty gritty here. 6-month goal. Personal and professional, I know, kind of intertwine with guys like us. So I'll let you either split them up or put them together. What is your 6-month goal?
Yeah. So it's interesting. I went through the pandemic. What do they call it? The pandemic 10 or the COVID 10, I think it was called, where you put on the 10. I think I put on 2025 maybe at the time. And so for me, the last 6 months has been a journey in just going through a transformation to get my health back, because you sit down so much, right? And so we got great products. We had those products, but it was just the 10 minutes of easy walking, snacking. It was like the blur. I think it's called blurred eating, fog eating, where you're just eating, you don't realize you're eating. So I went on a journey to lose weight. I lost 35 pounds during that time. Really focused on my personal health. Thank you. And so that's been a big goal for me, to just get back to a place where I felt like I was energetic. I want to run a marathon. So I've got one coming up in July that I'm going to run. So that's a big lofty goal that's within my 6 month on a personal level. I've never done that before, but I really want to, because once you start getting some success or those small wins and you see those pounds drop, you have energy, you have kind of the desire to shoot for bigger goals. And so now I want to continue. I've got another 20 pounds I want to lose. It seems like too much when I say it out loud, but and I want to get to a point where I can run a marathon and do it with some success. I'm not a runner. I hate running. I've done a little bit here and there. So on that personal level, it's just to continue that personal journey to improve and, set some goals and achieve some goals. So I joke that I played baseball growing up, and I was a catcher for a reason, because I'd run to first base, and with the speed up rule, people would run around the rest of the bases for me. That's how much I hated running. I'm like, I'll hit it, I'll get on base, and somebody else can run home for me. That's not my job. I'll go sit in the dugout and put on my gear. And so it's been a big transformation for me to get into a mindset of that type of effort and that type of activity. But I found joy and fun in doing that. So that's kind of that personal, 6 month goal, is to continue to work on that journey and complete a marathon. And the other thing, on a professional level, there's, I think, an opportunity, here at Shackley to continue to move towards more of a digital footprint and do more things socially. We're starting to make ourselves known. There's not a lot of people know Shackley, which is interesting. I know you do, and you know Shackley in the history, but you're still finding that a lot of people aren't aware of Shackley. What we mean to the industry, how long we've been here, the impact that we've had in so many people's lives for all these years, 65 years. It's just crazy to say that out loud. And so what I want to do is get to a point where we're starting to really grow. So I want our touch points, I want our impressions on social to be like 1 trillion. Like, I really want us to go in the next 6 months to really be where everyone is at least seeing that a Shackley product or a Shackley opportunity or a Shackley person is showing up, right? I want us to be more relevant and more present on social. So that's one of my big goals. So we're doing a lot of things to campaign, to do, fun ways to represent, who we are and what we mean and what we stand for, and the impact that we can have, as an organization, as a company. What's cool is we've got a really fun, Women's International Day is March 8th, right? And we've got a very strong, women-based field, which I love. I love the leadership that we have here. And you kind of said it not too long ago where, a lot of there was a time back in the 80s where we had, I think, 30 of our top leaders develop all together around the same time. They hit that top level of leadership. And it was a lot of the women, right, that all aligned and worked together to create an opportunity for themselves and their families. And then once they hit that level and they started creating that income, the husbands started to be more involved in the business, and then it became a partnership, and they've continued to move that for the last, 10, 20, 30 years together. And we're seeing that next cycle come through. And so we've got a really cool fun way to not only recognize the women in Shackley, but women around the world and the impact they're having as entrepreneurs, but a way to really get out there in force and have all these women just sharing about their sheroes, right? The people that have influenced them, the individuals that have made a difference in their lives that they want to impact, the future generations. So I think that's a really good start for us. So that's I think the beginning of where we can really transition to get to a point where more and more people are seeing Shackley. So we have a big campaign that we're setting up for March 1st. I'm excited about, and I've partnered with a lot of great women to make it happen. So maybe that's that first where we can start to move towards that trillion plus impressions that I think is a big goal for us.
Love it. Okay, now let's step it up. 6 years, 6-year goals.
6 marathons? No,
you are very driven, my friend.
no. So it's funny because I'm 50 now. I just hit 50. I think when I was 20, I never thought 50 would happen because of the dumb things I did, right? You've been there. And so now that I've hit that 50 mark, the next 6 years would put me at 56. So, I think for me, I've had the opportunity to move up in really great companies. And, I think for me, it's really creating my own persona, right? I want to get myself out there. So I've got some ideas. I've worked with so many, and it goes back to that very first conversation or question. And just the opportunity I've had to move up, right? And work through different areas in my career. I've partnered with a lot of great people. And so I've got some really good ideas to write a training program, a way for people to look at the industry a little bit differently, to really, it all starts with their identity. So I'm going to do a little bit of a pitch, right? I'm really big in your identity and that purpose point and how I can help people discover their purpose. I have a very fun, simple way for people to go through an exercise of taking away all the stuff. Because I think if you think about it, we're a husband first, or we're a father first, or we're the team lead first, or we're the VP first, or whatever it is. And we're always looking at other people versus ourselves. And so what I try to do is get people to say, okay, if someone else was doing all those tactical daily, responsibilities, what would you be doing next? And right, just stripping down those layers so that people really start to look at themselves, right? Just simply put, when you're on an airplane, they don't say take care of everybody else around you, then yourself.
Yep.
They say take care of yourself, and then you can help others. And that's kind of where people get lost. They get lost in a way for them to really see how they make a difference. And what is that internal motivation that they can share with other people and get other people excited? So I call that the identity. It's a way for them or a red shirt, right? It's a way for them to stand out. So if we're all sitting down, let's say there's 4 or 5 of us sitting down having a conversation about Shackley, right? And we're all wearing green Shackley shirts, we're wearing the brand, and we're all saying the same thing. Who does the person choose, right? They may choose, someone who has, maybe a better smile, or someone has better, eye contact. But it's hard to really kind of narrow it down. If they're all wearing the same thing and they're all saying the same thing, what makes somebody stand out? So what the identity is, a red shirt is, take one of those individuals out, put somebody sitting down with a red shirt. Now this red shirt's saying the same thing. They're positioning what they love about the business and the opportunity and blah, 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 but they're saying it with a red shirt. So immediately they stand out. Their identity is a little bit different. And so the person then will choose maybe one of the other green shirts, but there's something about this red shirt that kind of stands out, right? It gives them I wonder what that person has that's different, right? And that's that identity. It's a way when you're out there saying the same thing, or you're all talking about the same opportunity, same product, same way of life. It's like, what makes that person stand out? And that's that unique identity. And then taking that identity and make it more of a commercialized word or phrase that allows people to say, okay, there's something that you have that's different that I want to connect with. It's a relationship business. So we want to create that connection. So my identity is a connector. I love to create connections with people. And I think, Mel, you can see that in me, right? I love to create connections. And through those connections, we can build trust. And through trust, it's where I can then help them achieve what their goals are. And so I think there's a way for people to really step back, take that time to go through the process of truly understanding who they are, what that internal purpose is, what that internal motivation is, and then how do you share that? How do you make that something that resonates with other people and attracts people. Mm-hmm. So then I'm not hiding behind the Shackley shield. I'm standing forward in my own identity, my own uniqueness that says, here I am, right? Let's make a connection and let's build a relationship together. So I'm really passionate about coming up with something that I can codify. I've got it. I just need to put it down, create that training program, create that book, whatever, so that people want to see how that they can truly understand and tap into their own unique potential, and then how they can turn that into some type of profitability. So
it's such an important point. I'm so glad you talked about that. It's people tend to get lost in their company. I suppose the one good thing that the last couple of years have done is that it's gotten people more comfortable on camera. So people are, speaking a little bit more openly. But the thing is, what happens once we go back to the quote unquote real world? Yeah. Are they just going to shrink back again? So that's such a great mission. I so appreciate it. So, hey, Kevin, I'm so thankful you're on here today. This was so much fun. We got to talk about a lot of different stuff on both sides of the industry, and having the vice president of sales with a huge company like Shackley on here just makes me so happy to share this with everybody. So, Kevin, thanks for being on here. I really, really appreciate it.
Oh, well, I appreciate you inviting me. I enjoy our conversations. I forgot we were actually on Zoom.
Yeah, we're actually recording something.
Yeah, we are. All right. Do I need to I'm rethinking all the things no, it was a great conversation, Mel. I appreciate you giving me this opportunity. So
thank you, Kevin. Have a great day, my friend.
All right, you too. All right.
Bye-bye.